Kyla Patterson. I'm the Stonewall Campus Fair for the Iowa Democratic Party. I'm here tonight to, in addition to seeing Kimberly, I'm endorsing her because I think that she's the best person to win Iowa's Senate district. It's pretty obvious we need to get rid of Joni Ernst because she doesn't listen to anybody.
I agree.
She listens to the money people.
Yes. She takes money from a bunch of big ag. She takes money from big pharma, and we need a candidate who will not take any of that money.
Agreed.
And that's why we need somebody like Kimberly, and we need somebody who will bring up progressive issues like Medicare for all, the Green New Deal, and just a bunch of other issues. And it's just so important that we have somebody who's gonna go in depth with those policies and talk about them, and also have the ability to go to Washington and actually represent us. So I think that she's the best candidate for LGBTQ people because she's fighting for Medicare for all, she's fighting for the Green New Deal. Because those two big issues, they affect everybody, including the LGBTQ community. And she also supports banning conversion therapy federally, and we need that. And we have still not banned it in our state. So that's why we need somebody who can actually fight for us and actually win. And I think she can win because she's not. I mean, for example, Tom Harkin, he was not a total centrist. He was a progressive person in his own right, and we need somebody who's progressive who can win Iowa. And here is Kimberly Graham.
So thank you everybody for coming here. This is my intern Vicari Caldwell. I just wanted to introduce you all to him as well. I'll just tell you a little bit about myself and kind of my background and then why I'm doing this, and then I'm going to touch on probably one issue because then I'd like to open it up to questions and have more of a dialogue with you rather than just talking at you. So let's see, I'm a mom, and for the last 20 years I've been an attorney for abused or neglected children in our court system here in Iowa, as well as being a certified mediator. And so that's what I've spent the last 20 years of my life doing. My dad is one of 11 siblings that grew up in the central Iowa area. I lived for 24 of the last 25 years in Indianola, and then I just moved to the south side of Des Moines when my son became an adult and went off to college to be closer to work. And I'm currently the attorney and guardian ad litem for all the kids of the participants in the Polk County Drug Court or Recovery Court program. So I do that as well. And I'm also a small business owner. I've had my own solo practice law firm for 17 years. I've done the bookkeeping, billing, answer the phones, do the legal work, drafting, everything. So that's been something that running a small business, especially as well as being a single mom since my son was about 7 years old, is something that I've lived. So, and contrary to popular belief, not all lawyers make a lot of money, especially those who represent children and vulnerable people. I think when we don't talk about money, we just serve the people who have a lot of it. So I like to tell people that with the exception of 2 years where I did contract work for larger law firms to get some more money into my household while keeping my own law firm open and working about 60 hours a week for roughly a year, with the exception of those 2 separate years in my career, I've never earned more than $60,000 a year. And the reason I say that is because I want you to understand the life that I live as an American, as a single mom with that level of income, and the decisions I've had to make. You know, I've gotten the premium increases every year, and no one's paying my medical insurance but me. I don't have an employer to pay any part of it. So I know what it's like to be paying $800, $900 a month just to have medical insurance, and to sit there every year and get those increased premium notices and just feel despondent because I don't have another $50 a month or $100 a month to pay that next year's premium that much more every month. And so that's kind of like my kind of life experience for the last 20 years or so. I think it's important to kind of know where I come from as far as my family, my parents. My dad was a union bridge builder. He retired from the pile drivers union. My mom was a clerk at the phone company. She was with the Communication Workers of America her entire career. For 13 years, while I was getting my undergraduate degree and during law school, I was a flight attendant for American Airlines, and I was a volunteer organizer with the Association of Professional Flight Attendants, which is the APFA, the Flight Attendants Union at American Airlines. So unions are really important to me. I see what they do. I see the difference they make to families. It's why I didn't grow up in poverty. My mother was a teen mom. She dropped out of high school to have me. And without those good union jobs, that my dad graduated high school and he was in the Marines for a couple years. And then he was lucky, they were lucky. They got out and found some good union jobs. And so luckily I was able to grow up not in poverty as a result of that. So that's kind of that background. My dad, I said, is one of 11 siblings from here. My grandmother's from Mount Ayr, which is in southern Iowa. My great-great-grandparents had a farm in Zeering, which is near Ames, if you know that area. It's kind of a small town, I think 400, 500 people, something like that. So that's kind of my family background. I decided to do this a couple of years ago. In January, February, March of 2017, I saw an ad for the Ready to Run boot camp at the CAT Center for Women in Politics at ISU. And after the 2016 elections, I thought, no, this is not the direction I want my country going in. And my son was almost an adult. He had about a year and a half left to go of high school. And I admire the heck out of women who run for office when they have smaller children, but as a single mom, it wasn't something that I was going to choose to do. So I wouldn't even have thought of running for anything until he was kind of more independent on his own. And so I went and did that boot camp, and at that event I kind of looked around for what offices were coming up for election, at what levels in the next several years, and I discovered that Senator Ernst was up for re-election in 2020. And so I literally created a file on my computer that says, by the people, for the people, 2020. And that file folder's been on my desktop on my computer for 2 years, over 2 years now. And every time I would see her voting on something, see a bill that she signed on to, see an interview with her, I would make notes on different documents in that folder. And of course, keeping even a more close eye on her, I became even more dismayed, at her representation of us, in that she's not really representing us. At least that certainly doesn't appear to be the case for me. And of course, I've also looked into her donation record on opensecrets.org, I think it is .org. And you can see that's public, anyone can see where she gets her money and who her campaign donors are. And, was really disappointed to see the level of money that she takes from pharmaceutical companies, from the healthcare industry. This past March, it was kind of well publicized that she was holding a fundraiser. I think the minimum amount you could donate to get into it was $500, if I remember correctly, all the way up to the $2,800 maximum at some restaurant in DC. And somebody videotaped her walking in and said, is this why you keep voting against the Affordable Care Act to repeal it and replace it? She didn't answer, of course, but she was kind of whisked into the restaurant during that exchange. But so that kind of brings me around to, there's so many issues, and hopefully we'll get to some of them because I'm sure some of you will ask questions about a lot of different things. But I want to talk about a universal single-payer healthcare system for this country. I am not in favor of putting any kind of patch or public option or anything of the sort onto the Affordable Care Act. The Affordable Care Act did a lot of good things. It got rid of the pre-existing condition issue. It got rid of the annual caps that an insurance company was obligated to pay, and it got rid of the lifetime caps, which was great. Before that, we had people getting serious illnesses who would reach a lifetime cap and they literally couldn't have any more insurance. The insurance company wouldn't pay anymore. That's gone. That was a great thing the ACA did. It let you keep your children, your adult children, on your insurance, if you happen to have insurance, until they're 26 years old, which was also great. But it didn't go far enough, unfortunately, and I still don't know why, but I will tell you this, that I agree with Senator Tom Harkin, who wrote an op-ed a year or two after that was passed. And he said, I really regret that we did not pass a universal single-payer system. And that's one of his big regrets of his career, as he expressed in that op-ed. And I agree with him. Every other developed nation on this planet has a universal single-payer healthcare system. And for people that are, I question their motives, I will tell you that. But for people that are dragging their feet, it's going to be too hard, and we can't do it, it's going to take too long, it's going to be too expensive. I have a couple things to say about that. It's not going to be any more expensive than what we're all paying now. We're all, and it's going to be better because we'll actually be able to use it. We've been had. We are paying for medical insurance we cannot afford to use. Me and so many people I know have medical insurance. We have it. We can't afford to use it. What good is it? We're all putting off treatment, we're putting off seeing doctors that we should be seeing because we can't afford that $1,500 deductible or that $75 copay, and that kind of thing just keeps going up and up and up. I talked to a woman who owns a bookstore on the Indianola Square, where I lived for 24 of the last 25 years. She's paying about $1,000 a month for her insurance, plus she has a $10,000 a year deductible. $22,000 a year before it pays a dime. And I'm pretty sure that a universal single payer plan is not going to cost us $22,000 a year. It's just not. So there's a lot of nuance to be worked out, of course. It's going to have to be some kind of transition. There's not going to be a switch flipped, unfortunately, where we suddenly wake up one day and we have a universal single payer system. But we can get there. The people that are most opposed to this are the people that are waving the flag the strongest and yelling the loudest, USA, USA, we're the best country on the planet. You know what? I agree with them. This country is amazing, and anything we put our minds to, we can do. The problem is, we do not have a critical mass of people in the House of Representatives and in the United States Senate who want to do this. And I can't tell you why, but I have some good guesses why they don't want to do this. And it has to do with greed, and it has to do with where their money comes from, and it has to do with lobbyists. And I don't accept that. I don't accept that. So, there are 3 people running for this United States Senate seat as of now. There could be more, perhaps, that enter the race. It's getting late-ish to enter this race, but there could be more. And the other 2 people who are running are great people. Teresa Greenfield is one of them. I know her. I like her. She's a good person.
I think I heard of her.
What's that?
I think I heard of her.
You've heard of her? Yeah. Yeah. And the other person is Eddie Morrow, and they both ran for the 3rd congressional district last time in 2018. And Eddie owns an insurance company, or has a family insurance company that he works in, and Teresa is the president of a real estate company. And again, this isn't about them personally. I just don't think we need more people who have been in business with the motivation to profit as our representative in the United States Senate. We have enough business representation in the United States Senate, believe me, between lobbyists and donations and the people that get elected that already are well-connected and wealthy. And the average worth, now I'm thinking I might have this wrong, I want to say the average worth of a person in the United States Senate is $1 million. I might be wrong about that, but if I am, I don't think I'm much wrong. Lower? What is it? Oh, it's higher? I'm too low?
Yeah, I get it.
It's a lot. Let's put it that way. Some people have asked about, I talk about my student loan, my own personal student loan situation frequently, and when people hear about it, they say, how could that happen? And I say, it happens because there's nobody like me in the United States Congress who has massive student loans. There's one person, Eric Swalwell. He has about $100,000 in student loans. He's in the House of Representatives. That's it. There may be other people, but there's no one that I'm aware of that has anywhere near the amount of student loans that Eric and I have. And because, so there's nobody to represent those millions of people who have this massive student loan debt. And we have kind of a quasi loan shark system going on where if you pay income-based repayments, it doesn't even pay all the interest, so the interest accrues and capitalizes and gets added to your principal, and your principal grows and grows, and you end up more in debt 10 and 20 years down the line than you were when you left school. And a lot of people are not even aware that that is a thing, but it is. It is. And there's, people that go to school and try to get more education and are doing everything we sort of encourage people to do should not be penalized for that. I have no problem paying back what I borrowed, but I don't think it's okay that I have to pay back 3 times what I borrowed. And then in the end, if they forgive any of it, I'm paying regular income tax on what they forgive. On top of that, as income to me, that just shouldn't be the way it is in this country. We're the wealthiest nation on earth by just the sheer number of dollars that are in this country and controlled by Americans and owned by Americans. 40 years ago, the top 10% of people controlled about 1/3 of the wealth. Today, this top 10% control about 75% of the wealth. What? The top 10% of people in this country control about 75% of the wealth. So we need to peel back those tax breaks they got a couple years ago that they never needed. And in addition to that, we need to tax those people appropriately. And not just their income, but their wealth. Because a lot of those people up here don't have any income. They just have dividends, and they have interest, and they have a lot of things. They don't necessarily have income like we think of an annual income, like a W-2 or, being paid for work that they're doing. So I would definitely support, appropriate, not just income tax, but wealth tax, to start righting the ship a little bit and getting some of this money pulled down so that we can do a lot of these things that we need to do in this country to, try to correct a lot of our inequality and our wealth inequality, our income inequality, a lot of which is way more focused on people of color. That's even worse, and it's bad for everybody, but it's even worse for people of color in this country. So that's kind of, in a nutshell, I guess what I want to say is introductory remarks, and then I'd like to kind of have a conversation and see what questions y'all have. Anyone? I'm kidding. Yes.
So I grew up in the UK,
Yeah.
used to having a national health service.
Yes.
Excellent. So I'm very much inclined towards favouring a universal health system, but an argument a recurring argument I hear when I raise this point is that the United States population is so much larger than any given countries in the West that it would just not be feasible to roll it out on such a scale.
Yeah.
I don't know if you have any thoughts on that point.
Yeah, my thought is B.S. No, I mean, we do everything on a large scale. We have Social Security administered on a large scale. We already administer public education on a larger scale. Everything we do for however many millions of people now are currently in this country, whatever the number is this week. So we can do it. I mean, we don't lack innovation, we don't lack the technology, we don't lack the resources, we don't lack anything we need to implement that on a large scale. Is it easier when you have 20 million people in a country or 10 instead of what we have now, 240, what else?
I don't know, I don't keep track.
What?
I don't keep track.
I don't keep track. 246 last time I checked or something like that, 246 million, I don't know. But yeah, I mean, I just believe we can do it. And here's the other thing. I've been a mediator for most of my career as well. I'm a certified mediator. I sit with people and help them come to agreement on legal issues, right? Contentious legal issues. You don't walk into a mediation and say, here's the lowest possible thing I will accept. You don't ever start there. So, can I guarantee you all that if I'm elected, I will get universal single payer? I can't guarantee that because I'm only one vote, right? I'm only one vote. But I can guarantee you that if we don't get more people like me into Congress, we will never have it. And especially in the US Senate. I mean, we've flipped the House now, but we still have the Senate problem. We don't have a Democratic majority in the Senate. And even if we get a Democratic majority, we may not end up with universal single payer. We may not. But we need more people in there advocating for it, or we surely will never have it. And I don't think we're gonna get enough people in there advocating for it until we get people in there who can't be bought. I mean, I can't be bought.
True.
I can't, because I already doing a job I love, helping kids and families. I've been doing it for 20 years. If I don't get elected, I'll keep doing that. I'm doing that now. I'm working while I'm campaigning. Like, they can't make me quit. I will be doing this until June, whether I can raise tons of money or I can't raise tons of money. That is my only problem. My problem is that progressive people in the constituencies that I would help the most tend to be people who cannot write me a check for $2,800, which is the maximum somebody can contribute in a election cycle for a candidate. The people that my message typically resonates with aren't those people. And also, I don't have the connections that the other two candidates have because I haven't been in the for-profit business world for 20 years. And they have. I can't go to little Jenny from last year, the little 5-year-old I helped, advocate for and say, Jenny, I'm running for U.S. Senate. Can you please give me some money? So, that makes it a lot tougher. That makes it a lot more of an uphill battle because unfortunately, again, until people like me can get elected and can make the case for getting big money out of politics, period, this will keep happening. It's like I'm only 2-3 months into this and I see now why we have the Congress we have. Because it's, at least the conventional wisdom is, for this seat I'm running for, I'm told from political pundits and consultants and that I need to raise $2 to $3 million. I actually look at it as I need to waste $2 to $3 million to have a chance at winning this U.S. Senate seat. I'm not going to do that because I think it's a waste. That kind of money could go to so many other important things. Number 2, I think I can do it on way less than $1 million, which is still ridiculous. But I think it can be done. I think this seat can be won for that. This primary doesn't tend to, this June primary that you'll have these choices in June of next year, people don't tend to turn out for it because it's not the caucuses and it's not November. It's just kind of this, out there. A lot of people aren't even aware of it. We obviously need to do a better job of letting people know about it, but it's got a very, very low turnout. I only need about 50,000 votes to win this primary. That's not a huge number.
No.
It's not a huge number. And so I'm out here almost every day, even when I'm, back working in Des Moines. I try to get to events those nights, after I work all day. And on the weekends, I'm out here, everywhere but Des Moines. Last weekend, Saturday, when was that?
Saturday.
We were in Keokuk and Burlington and Fort Madison, down in the southeast corner of the state, and spent the whole day out there doing 3 different events, kind of like this one. And it was great. There was really decent turnout.
Good.
So,
That's good.
Yeah. People are really excited, and I think that there's a heck of a lot of people who agree with a lot of things that I want to promote and legislation that I'd like to create. We just need to get that message out. Yeah.
As you've gone around, what's the question you get asked most, and secondarily, what's the question you wish people would ask you?
The one I get asked the most is, do you want a single-payer universal healthcare system, or they say, do you want Medicare for all? I'm just kind of a shorthand for, So if they ask me, are you for Medicare for all? I say, what do you mean by that? And everybody's probably having been a lawyer for 20 years, I know that I need to know exactly what you're asking me, because sometimes, and being a mediator as well, right? We say things and we think we know what the other person meant that we were asking, but we don't. So that might be a job hazard, a mediator and a lawyer hazard is, people will ask me questions and they think I had somebody the other day say, you're equivocating, you're not a real progressive. I said, pump the brakes, dude. I said, I'm for a universal single-payer healthcare system, but I want to know what you mean by Medicare for all. So I don't agree with just taking Medicare as it currently exists and applying it to everyone, because it's not enough. we need to tweak that significantly. We need to have higher reimbursement rates because the doctors do not get repaid enough for the services right now under just Medicare, the way it exists today. We need to include mental health treatment in that, so nobody goes without mental health treatment, so that is paid for in part of that system. We need to include hearing aids. We need to include eyeglasses. We need to include everyone's health, every kind of health, hearing, dental. Oh, and dental, that's a huge one. There are so many people that can't afford that. What's that?
That's his one.
Dental?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's huge. There are so many, and you guys probably all realize, but a lot of people don't realize how much your dental health impacts your entire health, your whole systemic health, including your heart, including increasing your risk of stroke, all this kind of stuff. And if people don't have adequate dental care, that's really a serious problem as well. The question I wish people would ask. I mean, people ask this sometimes, but not very frequently, so I usually offer it because I want people to know, is what do you see as the difference between you and the other two candidates that are in this primary? And I sort of already said that, that I feel like we need a strong advocate who's whose job has been to stand up and fight for people. That's been my whole job for almost 20 years now, just under 20 years. And so I think that if that's what you're used to doing, you can do that under other circumstances. It's just more people that I'd be standing up and fighting for. So I think that that's the main difference between me and the other people who, again, I know I say this a lot, but I say it a lot for a reason. I have a lot of respect for Teresa and Eddie. I like them. They've done a lot of good for the community in the Des Moines area. Eddie's given away a lot of his money and time to a lot of organizations we would probably all support. I just feel like, number one, we need a universal single-payer healthcare system, and neither of them supports that. Neither of them. And number two, we just need somebody who's a strong advocate, who's been doing that and who knows how to do that. Yeah.
Well, first a comment and then a question. I'm a nurse, so I understand the medical thing. We're already paying out the nose for medical care.
It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, people are going to the emergency room, and we need to be doing care, not sick care. We need to be
Yes,
doing
health care,
not sick
you're
care.
not disease care.
So the
Yeah.
other question is, how do you feel about term limits on Congress?
Yeah, I think there should be. I don't think it should be only one term, because I think there's some benefit to having somebody with more experience there rather than everyone is brand new, all the time. So I think, just without thinking about it too hard, I would say probably a 2-term limit for a senator, which would be 12 years.
Yeah.
And maybe a same thing for a House of Representatives person, whatever, 6 terms, that'd be 6 terms for them. I think that's reasonable. I do think we've got to get more fresh faces and fresh perspectives from all different income levels and all different portions of society. And that's why I'm so passionate about getting big money, getting either limits in there or getting better publicly funded elections like they have in some other developed nations, so that you don't have to be well-connected or wealthy to even be able to run a competitive campaign. Because as it is now, if you don't have some level of privilege and some level of connection to money, you just literally, you can't do it. You can't do it. Yeah.
That leads me to my question, and I apologize for looking at my phone because I was trying to find
No,
the
you're
article.
fine, you're
I was
fine.
trying to find the actual stats that if you were to win the Democratic primary and go up against Senator Ernst, she has got I think almost $7 million already in her
I
money
thought it was
chest.
only 3.
No,
Is
3
that
she had some money cash on hand, and then she has earned $3 million recently.
Yeah.
So she has got close to $7 million,
Right.
of which, if the statistic is correct from what I read, 60 or 70% of that is from out-of-state donors. So
Sure, it has to be, because there's only 3 million people in Iowa, so needless to
Well,
say.
I mean, we have PACs in Iowa and things like that
Yeah.
could give her money as well. But
Sure.
my question is, how are you going to fight that? What is your plan
Yeah.
to beat that?
Yeah, so a couple of things. First of all, I'm not overly concerned about after the primary, because if the field is cleared and it's me and Joni, there will be people from all over this country wanting to pour money into this race, because this has, I think, been rated by most political pundits as like the 5th most likely seat to flip from Republican to Democrat. So she's quite vulnerable, and she knows that. And other activists and people who live in states that are bright blue, that have nothing to worry about, but who know how much the United States Senate affects every person in this country, I think will be a lot more willing to throw in money to a US Senate race that appears possibly winnable. So that's one thing. And then with that also comes a lot of money from, you know, party organizations and PACs, and I don't take corporate PAC money, but, you know, PACs like from labor unions and that kind of thing, which I would take that money happily, because I'm very pro-union, and I would vote for pro-union, whether they gave me a dime or not. So if I would, then I don't feel any, you know, weirdness about taking PAC money from, say, a union or other organizations like that. So, you know, and I hope that we would be able to get a series of debates set up, because if I am on a debate stage with Joni Ernst, I assure you, I will wipe the floor with her. I will know every vote. I will know every cabinet member she's confirmed. I will know every federal judge that was utterly unqualified that she voted to confirm. And I'm not talking about Kavanaugh. I'm talking about these lower level federal judges that are going to change the face of our federal courts forever until they retire or die. These are lifetime appointments. And I've come across a few of them. They sort of get buried, unfortunately, in all this other nonsense that's going on. But that is huge. As an attorney, I can tell you, that is huge. That may be one of the most damaging things that this administration has managed to do, is confirm all these judges, some of whom have never set a foot in a courtroom. If you read the biographies of some of these people that have gotten appointed, they've never litigated a case. I have way more courtroom experience than a lot of these people that have been appointed to the federal bench, and a lot of them, quite intentionally, have been in their 30s and 40s, because these are lifetime appointments. And I'm just like, you know, let's go. Put me on a debate stage with her, you know. And I spent 20 years making arguments in a courtroom on behalf of my clients, and I would stand there and make the arguments on behalf of Iowans and everyone in this country, and take her to task for every vote she's ever done, and everything she's ever promoted, and every judge she's ever confirmed, and cabinet members, and Betsy DeVos, and the head of the EPA who's just trying to undo all the environmental regulations. I mean, it just goes on and on and on. It's really quite appalling. So that would be really important, and I hope
And the
that
Secretary of Labor, which just had to resign.
Oh, yes. It just never ends. Honestly, it never ends. It's just endless. Yeah, Kyla. Did you have a question? Oh, you're just okay. Yes.
You mentioned student debt and work with legal issues on children. As a fellow college student, I know a lot of friends with the same as abusive families because they pay partly for their college tuition or room and board. I just wanted to ask, would you support free college for all, and specifically Sanders' plan that would relieve all college debt in the U.S.?
Yeah. So, hi. How are you doing, Roy? Good to see you. Do you all know who this is? If you don't, you should. Say your name.
Sorry to interrupt.
No, you're good.
My name is Nouman Abu Isa, and I'm running for the U.S. Congress seat here in our district, District 2.
Yeah. So he is running to replace Dave Lopsak. So before all
Good,
you
thanks.
know, because you're all here.
Good.
Free college for all. I support debt-free college for all. Nobody should ever leave. Believe me, I'm an expert on college debt. Nobody should leave college with debt. They also shouldn't leave a trade school with debt. So I would want people to be able to go to getting a welding certification, or become an electrician, or a dental hygienist, or an x-ray technician, and not have any debt for those trainings and certifications either. I would definitely want community colleges to all be free. You know, free meaning free of charge to the person taking the classes, obviously. I'm very well aware nothing is free. This would come from all of our, you know, chipping in our 5 cents or whatever it would take from every, you know, person in this country. As far as whether four-year public institutions should be completely free, I'm still thinking about that. Here's what I wrestle with. If you have $500,000, if your parents make $500,000 a year, you know, and your dad's a radiologist or whatever the heck, you know, and you've got lots of should we all pitch in to get you a free university degree? I don't know. There's something about that that just doesn't feel fair to me. Maybe because I still have debt and I worked my frickin' ass off since I was 14 years old to get where I am, which isn't even in a very good financial spot, right? So, I don't know. But 100%, no one should be leaving a university or a trade school with any debt whatsoever. What was the other thing? Sanders' plan for total debt forgiveness. So I've actually kind of mashed up my own plan because I don't utterly agree with Senator Sanders' plan. And Senator Warren, I think, had a pretty good plan, but I don't agree with it either because it doesn't go far enough, in my opinion. So here's what I would propose. I think this sounds fair to me as somebody with massive student loan debt. So I left law school with $80,000 in debt, and that included my undergraduate degree as well. And I worked I worked since I was 14 years old. I waitressed, I cleaned houses, I was a flight attendant. I mean, I've always worked, but Drake is a very expensive law school. That's where I went to law school.
It's expensive.
It's very expensive. So,
It's more expensive today.
I know, I know, it wouldn't be any $80,000 today.
Yeah.
So I left law school with $80,000 in debt almost 20 years ago. And I've been making income-based repayments for almost 20 years. And what income-based repayments are, for those who don't know, is if you can't make the $800, $1,000 a month that would pay it off in 10 years, whatever that number was at the time, which I could not. I just didn't have that kind of income. They say, no problem, just tell us your income and you can make this payment. They give you a payment based on the percentage of your income. For me, it's been roughly $300 to $400 a month a long time ago it was like $250, $280 a month, and now it's roughly $350 a month now. And that's been around that number the whole 20 years. I now owe, I'm always glad you guys are sitting down when I say this number, I now owe $234,000 in student loans.
What?
I now owe well that was a couple weeks ago, I owe more now actually. It goes up every
What's the
day.
interest rate you're paying?
7.625%.
That's the problem.
And yeah, and it's also called loan sharking. This is loan sharking, people, but it's legal. You know why it's legal? Because I'm not in the United States Senate. Because there are not enough people like me whose parents couldn't write a check for their college or their law school or whatever. There's not enough people like me in Congress. If there were, these laws would be different because they have people there saying, this isn't fair, this isn't right, and we maybe would get something done about it. So that's definitely a top priority for me. I would say that, so for me, like, here's what I would propose. We set my loans back to $80,000. Then we subtract everything I've paid for 20 years, whatever that number is. And then we blanket forgive $50,000 of student loans for every student that has them, every former student that has them. That would completely wipe out student debt for something like 75% of the people that have student loan debt. It would not for me. I would probably still owe $10,000 to $20,000 roughly, somewhere in there, which is totally fine with me. I have no problem paying back what I borrowed. I have a big problem, as we should all have a big problem, with students basically being completely taken advantage of, and private corporations, which is what Sallie Mae is, making obscene profits on the backs of people trying to get an education. That should not happen. So I would say, and then we'd cap it. My idea would be whatever's left, let's say it's $10,000 for me, we cap it, there's no more interest accruing, and you keep paying it off until you've paid it off. And then you're done. And then we solve the problem by making schools debt-free. Maybe we increase Pell Grants, which are needs-based, so that we've got enough Pell Grants to be able, those have gone way down. There used to be a lot more Pell Grants available. We need to refund those and really start increasing the availability of Pell Grants. But nobody should get it's an investment. Education is an investment in this country, and we have to make those investments or we won't get the payoff. Other countries are surpassing us in a lot of fields, in a lot of things, in a lot of technology. We have got to make these investments, I mean, you guys, China's over there kind of laughing at us with a huge booming middle class. You guys know this, right? Their middle class is booming. Booming. And nations overall do better when they have a thriving, booming middle class like we had in the 1950s and 60s. So we've just got to get back there. I mean, that involves increasing wages. I'm for a minimum wage of $15 an hour. Frankly, it should probably be more. That's probably not adequate, but it's a good place to start. You know, the House just actually passed that bill. I don't think it moved fast enough. It calls for minimum 15 by 2025. I think they should have had a little more courage. But at least, you know, it's been passed, so it will be hopefully sitting there. If we flip the US Senate, it'll be sitting there waiting for Senate action on it, and then we can pass it then. Yeah. Does that answer your question? Okay. Any other questions? Newman, you probably have a question for me. No?
Well, I mean, I think here. My biggest question is really, we are really spending too much money on wars.
Oh my gosh, yes.
And what is your position on that?
Yeah.
And what needs to be done?
Right. So we're spending too much money on unnecessary wars, so-called, a lot of people refer to them as interventionist wars, right? Where we do not need to be intervening necessarily, not with war, not with soldiers on the ground, not with bombs and oh, accidentally we killed all those children. Not those kind of interventions. What we need to do first is fully fund the State Department, because our State Department has been gutted during this administration. It nearly doesn't exist. I don't know if all of you are aware of that. Probably you all are, but it's a mess. We need to bring back all the aid programs and things that we had. Like, this is part of the reason for the immigration crisis on our southern border, is because we have stopped so many programs that we had. We have stopped so many programs that we had that were helping to keep these countries somewhat stable and, you know, kind of okay. Maybe they weren't, you know, thriving, wonderful democracies with lots of great paying jobs, but they weren't falling into the state of disrepair that they are now. There's no other reason why, unless you thought your children's lives were in danger, why you would walk 2,000 miles with your baby and your toddler with you. As a mother, I can tell you that right now. And I would walk way more than 2,000 miles if I thought my son's lives were in danger. So we have to start reinstating aid, especially to Central American countries immediately, to try to help them. Get the State Department back up, get all our ambassadors back out there. All the ambassadors were essentially recalled by the current administration. We don't really have them out there anymore. And just put an end to that. And also stop spending money on the military-industrial complex, on all these defense contractors, like, or these organizations like, they probably have different names now, but Halliburton, which was one that Dick Cheney's defense contracting company, and Blackwater, which I know for sure changed its name. I can never think of the current name, but that's Betsy DeVos's brother's company, for those of you who don't know. Betsy DeVos is our Secretary of Education, who is utterly unqualified, has never had any kind of position in public education, and she is our Secretary of Education because her family has given millions upon millions of dollars to the Republican Party and candidates and so on and so forth. And so we need to stop the revolving door of contractors, these military contractors then going and working for the Pentagon and then back to their private companies and then proposing things that will create more of a need for their products and their bombs and whatever things they're selling, and then back to the Pentagon. That whole revolving door needs to be shut so that that can't happen. There needs to be a lifetime lobbying ban, so when people leave, they cannot just go back the next day as a lobbyist in Congress when they leave Congress, which is what a lot of people do, a huge number of people do. And we need to find other ways to address these situations around the world other than wars. And we don't even need to be, most wars are fought with computers now. They're fought by somebody sitting behind a computer programming a drone to go drop a bomb or whatever they're doing. So this idea that we need to be sending all these troops to wherever, I see nothing wrong with having a good, strong military to defend our country. Of course we need that. But before the most recent increases to the military budget, we were by far the biggest, strongest, most well-funded military on the planet. Better than like the next, I think it's 26 militaries. The next 26 militaries, add them all together, that's how big ours was. before the increase in the military budget. So it's just, we don't need that. We need to, this is what I think we need to pay our soldiers more. I think we need to pay our benefits to our veterans, those need to be larger. We need to take care of those people, the people that are in the military, not the industrial contractors. Yeah.
Kind of piggybacking on that, I'd like you to speak a little bit about, and I'm going to use a different word that I just read about, climate collapse. A lot of people say climate change or climate crisis, but I just recently read an article about climate collapse. And I think that's the number one thing, because if we don't resolve that, we all won't be here in 20 years. But I think the war is a big contributor to that. And so can you expound on that?
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think that's definitely, so my kind of personal too, it's hard to choose something, but I think that healthcare and the climate crisis, I call it climate crisis, are the biggest, most urgent, most pressing things that we've got to address. And the climate crisis can be addressed on so many different levels, including in ways that will create a lot of high-paying jobs. So it really can solve, it'll solve, or start solving that, addressing that problem, at least trying to start mitigating it. It might not get rid of it, but it'll start mitigating it, as well as creating a lot of good jobs. So I've read the Green New Deal document. It's about 14 pages. If anybody hasn't read it, you probably all have, but if you haven't, you can Google it. It's a free 14-page PDF online. And it's really, a set of goals and a set of outlines, and here's where we need to be by when, and here are some things that we should be doing. And I really would support that as a really good first step. And we need to do more. We need to also, which is particularly relevant to Iowa, we need to be addressing that at an agricultural level, because the way that we're doing our agriculture here is often quite damaging to the environment, and pollutes our water and pollutes our soil, or I shouldn't even say pollutes our soil, it does, but our soil's ending up in the Gulf of Mexico. The way that we're doing farming, the erosion and all of the flooding that we're having and the rains is really just wiping that topsoil off, and it's ending up in the Gulf of Mexico. And if we don't start putting in buffer strips and wetlands and all of these different things we can do to slow that down, then we're going to have a really big problem. Yeah.
So what's the, we have all these military bases, and we have all these interventionist wars, and we don't have a State Department. Why is that? What are the basic reasons?
The money. Follow the money. War is big business. It's really, really like bigger business than I can't even wrap my brain around it. Not $1 million, billion, maybe probably trillions. It's huge business.
But how come both Republicans and Democrats support this business?
Well, I know. I think
yes, you.
I think they both support it because they both represent states that are in the military-industrial complex. Like Oregon or Washington, wherever Boeing is, wherever they have these businesses that make stuff for the military. There's both Democrats and Republicans representing those
I guess
districts.
my question is why the public does not vote them out of office?
Because they think that their representative, senator, whoever, is doing a good thing by keeping the jobs in their state. It's all a bill of goods we've been sold. It's all about money. It's all about the economy. And I'm starting to think I need to start asking people when they go, we need to be concerned about the economy. What really does the economy mean?
Well, you mentioned jobs.
Well,
that
right.
is part of the economy.
Right.
But you were saying that those companies, they usually go to the top managers. It doesn't go to the jobs. And do we really need more military jobs, or do we need jobs fixing our roads and doing other
exactly.
Right.
But people like us in this room get sold a bill of goods, and we get told that this is what we should believe in.
Or here's one. Well, I guess you just hate America and you're not patriotic if you don't want a bigger military budget.
Right.
Yeah.
What?
So it's the framing, it's the languaging around that, it's the words that are used, it's what's tossed out to maintain the status quo. as well. If you loved your country, you'd want a bigger military budget, or you would have no problem with having or they equate a military budget. If you don't want that large a military, well, then you must be against veterans. You
Right.
must be against soldiers.
Right.
Look, my dad was a Vietnam era Marine. I was born on a Marine Corps base. My grandfather fought in the Battle of the Bulge.
Yeah, I got two great.
You're not gonna ever sell that one to me, that I don't love veterans and I don't love soldiers and I don't support soldiers. That's ridiculous. I absolutely do. In fact, I think I'm the only one I've been hearing talking about paying them more. I don't even hear that from a lot of Republicans saying, look at the pay. I actually Googled the pay a couple weeks ago of soldiers, like initial, starting pay for soldiers in this country, the Marines and the Army and the Air Force. It is not good. It's ridiculously low. That shouldn't be the way that is. And I'll tell you something else, guess who tends to enlist? By and large, overall, it's people who are not well off, who do not come from well-off families. So maybe we just think we'll just get away with paying them this because, hey, it's more than they had in some little town, wherever they're from, No. No, they should be paid a firm middle income wage, if not more. But it certainly needs to increase. It's ridiculous how little they get paid for what they do and everything that they have to change their entire lives. Like their entire life is different. It's not just like they go to work every day from 8 to 5, right? Like they have to go live somewhere else and do what someone tells them, and it's a whole life change, and it's really important, and we do need a strong military. But we can have that without just simply funding the military-industrial complex with our military budget. So, yeah.
I just wanted to hear how you consider current trends in the Middle East in terms of the Palestinian-Israeli peace process stagnating and Netanyahu's plan to annex major settlement blocks in the West Bank.
Yeah.
And how that has to do with the aid that we supply Israel
Right.
for its military.
Yeah. Well, I am against any human rights violations anywhere and everywhere, and certainly there's been numerous and horrific human rights violations and killings and attacks on Palestinians, and that has to stop. How do we do that? Well, if there's not enough people like me in the United States Senate who are going to, make resolutions and propose laws and policies that stop that, then it's not going to stop. That's, as you know, probably a really old problem. What are we going to do with Israel and Palestine? If that was an easy thing to figure out, we would have figured it out a long time ago. I think Jimmy Carter was, we almost got somewhere then, and then not so much, So I think it's going to take, maybe our next president will have some better luck at trying to broker some kind of lasting peace in that region. We need our allies, but we also should not be turning our heads away at human rights violations.
Would you endorse legislation being promulgated which would limit military aid to Israel as a leveraging sort of tool in order to get them to change their policy?
Yeah, I don't know because I've never studied that. I'll just be honest with you. And I hate talking about things. This is like the lawyer, researcher. I want to read everything and know everything. I don't feel like I know enough about that conflict yet, nor do I know enough about how much are we funding? You guys all know this, I'm sure, better than I do. How much exactly are we giving them? What is it?
$3.8 billion a year.
But what is it? Is it guns? Is
Military.
it bombs? Yeah, but what? Is it guns? Is it bombs? Is it defensive stuff?
No,
or is it offensive stuff? What is it?
They have to buy our military weapons. So they buy weapons in order to, just today, what happened in the West Bank was that in East Jerusalem, which is supposed to be, again, Palestinian territory, the Israelis have knocked down hundreds of homes because they said they're too close to the wall.
Yeah.
And they buy cats,
Bulldozers.
caterpillar bulldozers, and outfit them so that what they do is knock over houses.
Yeah.
And they buy HP equipment that at the checkpoints will allow them the Palestinians have to go through the checkpoints as if they were cattle.
What's
You know,
HP?
They can go through
Hewlett Packard, the company Hewlett Packard.
HP equipment, like what do you mean?
Hewlett Packard.
Computer.
Yeah, but what, like you said, HP
Computer.
equipment, like what equipment?
Like computers and printers and all those kinds of things that will allow them to.
Security systems.
Yeah, security systems.
Oh, okay.
So that they make Palestinians line up for hours at a time in order to get through the checkpoints to go to their work, to their
Yeah.
jobs.
I mean, it starts with having senators and a president who really want to find a solution to that problem, and I just don't believe that there's been enough will to have it happen, because that's where it starts. You have to want to have a solution,
Certainly,
and you don't do things like move the embassy.
exactly.
That's not. So how I say that as a mediator is, we don't want to throw gas on this fire, okay? That's what I tell people when I'm trying to broker a settlement for people is, look, the last thing we want to do is throw gas on this fire, and that's what things like moving the embassy are like. It's not even just lack of actually wanting to create peace, it's actually making the situation worse actively.
Joe Sestak actually told me the other day that he would move his embassy back to Tel Aviv.
Sure. That's like the least we should be doing, is correcting that horrible mistake.
Yeah.
So if you were going to follow the money in this situation, where would you start?
I don't know. That's why I'm saying I don't feel comfortable saying, here's what I would do, and I know this and that, like I do with some of these other facts that I know.
You might start with the 3.8
Yeah.
billion that we give annually,
Mhm.
and then you might start with money that civilians in this country contribute to Israel. You might start with the money that the Christian Zionists contribute to.
Can we control what a
Yes,
private
sir.
citizen contributes though to another
Yeah.
country or to to any organization or anything like that?
We always seem to be able to manage to sanction other countries for doing things that we think are not right. So
And I don't know. I'm asking that because I don't know. Like I don't know that we can control. I don't know if we can control.
freeze somebody's bank account.
Yeah.
We do that regularly, and so
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, but I'd love to learn more about it, and I will be learning more about it. I just feel like at this point I don't know enough to.
I can recommend a good book to start with.
Great.
Max Blumenthal's.
Is that on audiobook? Because literally I'm working 15 to 17 hours a day, so if I could listen to it in the car, that would be perfect.
Max Blumenthal's Goliath, Life and Loathing in Greater Israel.
I'll have to, I won't remember that.
I've
I'll have
been
to write it
listening
down.
to it.
That would be around like,
Yeah. Make sure that
Robin
you
will write it down for you.
yeah, write it down for us before we leave so I can make sure that I can get it. I would love to learn more. So. Any other questions, anyone? Yeah.
Talk a bit about soil erosion and
Yeah.
farming. I wanted to ask you, would you support, there was some Senator Sanders project, like this cycle as well, support bringing back price parity towards farmers and combating big ag?
What do you mean by price parity?
So you
I think I know what you mean, but I want to make sure I know what you mean.
said farmers get price on their crops that's actually livable. So the moment it's actually you lose money going into farming, right?
Right. Yeah, farming is a non-profit industry.
Below the
Not supposed to be, but it is.
price of a crop is below its cost of production at the moment.
Right.
So
Yeah,
the way-
that shouldn't be that way. If you're gonna work, you should end up with some money for that. Absolutely, and one of the problems is we have not been enforcing our antitrust legislation. We haven't been enforcing it, and that comes from several different entities or organizations. Comes from the Attorney General's office, specifically a lot of that federal antitrust legislation. And if we need to beef it up and we need more antitrust laws, stronger antitrust laws, then we need to do that as well. Because we shouldn't have one company in control of the seeds, the fertilizer, and then at the end, the prices and how much they're gonna pay you for what you just grew. That's a monopoly, and that shouldn't work that way. That is to the farmer's disadvantage. And so we need to address that. And we also need to kind of think about changing some of the things we do in regards to farming as well. Rotating more than 2 crops would probably be very helpful. And hemp is one of those crops that can be grown extremely well here in Iowa, and should probably be a 3rd crop that's rotated with corn and soybeans, and that could be helpful. However, my understanding from talking to some farmers quite recently is that needs some different equipment than you use for corn and soybeans, and it's not cheap.
No, my
It is
uncle lives on
not
a farm.
cheap.
I got an uncle lives in Michigan, he's on a farm, it's not cheap.
No, so I think that we should help we incentivize these big companies, we incentivize commodity crops, we have subsidies for this and that. I think we should help these farmers that need help buying the equipment that they need to buy to be able to do this, because it's beneficial to our environment, it's beneficial to the soil, and it's going to be beneficial to the farmer as well, getting some more income coming their way. We can also be building processing plants here in Iowa that are value-added agriculture. So every bag of hemp seeds I've ever purchased, every hemp protein bar I've ever purchased, they all say on the back, product of Canada. They should say produced in Iowa, USA on the back, because that crop grows like crazy. And there's no reason why, that could be a major important crop here. And we can make paper out of it, and cloth, and protein powder, and shampoo, and lotion, and on and on. And I mean, it's almost endless, the applications that can be used with hemp. But our state legislature, in its infinite wisdom, has so far instituted a 40-acre limit on hemp production per farmer, or I don't know if it's per farmer, I don't know the exact language, it might be per farm or per farmer, or I don't know. But we need to fix that, because farmers should be able to grow more than 40 acres of hemp. If we grew it
Oh, my
during
uncle
World
had a
War
lot.
II, that's all you could see. If you drove, my dad said he used to drive from Des Moines to Mount Air to see relatives, and there was just hemp everywhere, as far as the eye could see. Right. And then we got this weird idea that it was like a drug, or it was marijuana, or we don't know. I don't know. It was the whole war on drugs thing that was such a rousing success or something during all that time, and so, yeah, but we're getting there. At least we got it decriminalized, and we can grow it now. We just need to be able to grow enough of it, and then help the farmers, retool and get the equipment that they need to be able to do it and make a go of it. We can also do things like, let's grow food here and just ship it 5 miles down the road to the school. Iowa is the 3rd leading importer of food, behind Alaska and Hawaii.
Are we on an island?
What?
What?
We're the 3rd leading importer of food. Alaska, Hawaii, Iowa, as far as the amount of food that we import to this state.
Do not grow tomatoes.
That should not be. That should not be. So we need to help, incentivize smaller farms that can actually grow and sell the food here, and help them create. There's endless creative things that we could do to be growing food here and eating the food here, or growing the food here and processing the food here. Because obviously, like, for example, somebody when we were here on last week at Utopia said, well, yeah, but your tomatoes, those only have a week or 2 shelf life. Well, sure. Well, why don't we even make tomato sauce, or why don't we make whatever?
Or salsa.
Salsa, whatever. There's lots of things that we could be doing to make perishable crops. If we can't, if we can't consume them all, we can process them into products that we can use.
My small town in sort of northeast Iowa, which is not on the road to anywhere, used to have asparagus fields and sweet corn fields, and we had a canning factory that employed a lot of people, to work for the kids to pick the asparagus, and, sweet corn and the canning company, and it's all gone.
Yeah.
Now we're picking asparagus in the ditches, because that's where it's.
I know. You find like these wild asparagus patches. But sometimes rhubarb, you find like
Yeah.
random volunteer rhubarb. Yeah.
Say, I wonder if, what you think about the the discussion about the Russians interfering in our elections, and we should be worried about that. And do you think the United States interferes in anybody else's elections?
So the first part, we need to be very worried about that.
Why?
Well, because they're gonna try to help the people they want to be elected, like our current president. And I would promote a lot of voter protection and cybersecurity legislation in the United States Senate that would be federal, that would require paper ballots. There's absolutely no reason why we should not have paper backup, some kind of paper ballots. Yeah, okay, we're killing all those trees. Well, I think our elections might be worth it. I don't think this should all be computerized, because it is not that hard to hack into a computer. It's not that they had this thing a few years ago where they had these 12 and 13-year-olds hacking into these voting machines with computers, and they were able to do it pretty quickly.
What?
Yes, it's not that hard. So if we really want our elections to be secure and fair and want everybody to be able to vote, I think that we need to really do what it takes, whatever it takes, to have that happen. I've voted in plenty of elections where I literally had where there were paper ballots that I physically made a little mark on, and I don't know why that can't be the way that we do it, and I think you should probably also leave with a copy. There should be some kind of copy so that you have a copy of what you left there in the event that there's any kind of issue with that. So whatever it takes to make our elections actually secure, I think we need to do. As far as if we are meddling in other countries' elections, did you say in other countries' elections? I don't know. I can't know. So yeah, I don't know, and I'm not sure who exactly would be doing that. Are you talking about just individuals in the United States, or who in the federal government?
I'm thinking, for example, about how Boris Yeltsin became premier and president in Russia, and I'm thinking about how we installed people in Iraq and Afghanistan, and so on. So
well, that's not even a lot of times elections. A lot of time we get into these interventionist
but they all have
things,
black
and then
thumbs, so they went to vote.
I can tell you one way they did it is in, somebody tell me, 2000, the elections, when Hamas took over.
2007.
I thought I was going to say 2006, when they had elections, which the Carter Center went and watched, and they knew they were absolutely fair elections, but Hamas was elected, and the United States didn't want them to be. So they gave weapons to Hamas agents so that they would fight against people who were arguing against that, and Israelis, and they ended up taking over the Gaza, and the United States made them illegal. So that's one way that the United States intervenes in elections.
One other example also, we have a strong Sudanese community in our city here, about 600-700 families. And they are all pro-democracy, and there is a democracy movement in Sudan, and the military junta has been in charge, and our allies like Saudi Arabia has been pumping money to keep that military junta in office, and we are not supporting the democratic movement.
Right.
That's another way.
That's really a significant part of our history, as we all probably know. Like an average American, unfortunately, might not really be aware of that, but we should be the shining example of democracy and human rights the world over, and that's why we need a fundamentally different Congress, and we need different people in the White House, which just circles back to why I'm doing this. Because I don't think that we have the people there who are really fundamentally there to fight for human rights and to truly make the world a more peaceful and prosperous place. It's interesting. People used to run for office, I'm not saying it was true, but people used to run for office on peace and prosperity. People used to run for office and say that, I want to bring peace and prosperity. I'm not sure necessarily was even happening then, but at least they were saying they wanted to run on peace and prosperity. Now we're not even saying that, you know, a lot of people that are running for office. It's about, no, let's bump up the military budget, you know, and let's keep intervening all over the place, so, yeah. I think, does anybody else have one more question, and then we'll wrap it up?
You were talking about hemp. I guess I was going to ask you about the opioid crisis in our society. Have you talked about this issue? I'm sorry I came late, so I don't know if you
I live that issue every day because that's a lot of my clients' parents. So I represent children, abused or neglected children in the recovery court program. So their parents are in the recovery court program. So a lot of those parents have, like 99% of them have drug addiction issues, mental health issues, poverty issues. They're almost all in poverty. And so I deal with that all the time in my work. So, you know, I think that it's great that we are trying to hold some of these drug manufacturers accountable. There's a lot of lawsuits going on right now because they're kind of the ones that started this. They went around telling doctors that this was perfectly okay, and then, oh, lo and behold, and now all of a sudden all these people are, you know, drastically addicted and horribly addicted to these drugs. I think that some people, and my brother's one of them, so when I say some, I'm thinking of my brother particularly. He's disabled and he lives with chronic pain, severe chronic pain, and he's been on opioids for a lot of his life in the last 10, 15 years. And something like having a true medical marijuana availability would seriously help him. And he lives here in Iowa, so we don't have that yet. I mean, we sort of have this cannabis, you know, what we have right now isn't what most people need. That's what I hear from my brother, that's what I hear from a lot of people who, you know, frankly have obtained marijuana from other states or whatever, and they know that it helps them because they've used it. And the laws as they currently exist in Iowa don't help most people. That's what I'm hearing from people. Thankfully, I don't have a, you know, chronic pain problem, so I don't know personally, but that's what I'm told. We just need to have a straight up federal medical marijuana. Anybody who should, you know, it's very effective. It can replace opioids for a lot of people who are in pain. And I think it needs to be done in concert with your doctor and your, you know, whoever your medical provider is, your physician's assistant or your nurse practitioner. But if you need it, it should be available, and I think that would decrease the opioid addiction quite a bit if we could get something like that to happen.
I was talking to my doctor about that just this afternoon, as a matter of fact. And part of the problem is, like for me, I know that it does help, that CBD products do help. And the problem is not so much, it's that I can't afford it. You know, even when you can get them in the store and to buy them, we can't afford it
They're
because
extremely expensive.
Medicare and my supplemental insurance will pay, you know, so I pay zero for opioids.
Right.
But do you think they're paying for CBD
No.
products? No.
No.
And now my doctor said the reason that is because they're still illegal. So whether
Which is true, which is actually true.
pick it up and
Yeah.
and then they would be, you know, available by prescription. I don't know, but you know, I mean, they're not paying for it right now.
Yeah, that's why, I mean, I would want to very quickly sponsor, you know, author legislation that would make just that simply a federal, stop dinking around with state by state by state and just make
And
it
they have to
federally.
be, yeah, there have to be a federal thing, she said.
Right.
So that, you know, you don't have the state to state thing. In some states it's legal and in some other states.
Right. Right. Yeah. Well, I'd be a horrible candidate. People would yell at me if I didn't say, if you know anyone who can donate to a progressive candidate, who's got that kind of money, they've got $500 laying around, they've got $1,000 laying around, they can make a large donation to a progressive candidate, and you think that they would support a progressive candidate, please give them my information, or I'll, you know, get me in touch with them, because I'm happy to come and speak with them. I understand if I was going to write a big check to somebody, I would want to know a lot about them. So I'm happy to spend that kind of time, you know, talking to people. If any of you can donate or have friends that can donate, we need the money. I'm told I need $2 or $3 million. I don't think I do. I think I can do this on more like $500,000. But because of the people I need to hire and how to get the message out there, just simply enough people will not hear me if I cannot get enough funding for this campaign. And you know my life history a little bit, you know the connections I have. I don't have connections to a lot of big money. So it's the $5, $10, $20 from people like you and people you know that really are gonna have to fund this campaign, and so far have. We've raised about $11,000 and most of that is $5, $10, $20, $25. So it doesn't add up fast, but it adds up. So we really appreciate that. So on these little cards here, if you take one of these, on the back is our website, and you can donate through ActBlue. Most of you probably know what ActBlue is. You can donate through ActBlue online as well. So I really appreciate you all coming out here and taking the time. Obviously, you all care a great deal about who our next U.S. Senator would be, and I love that. So I appreciate you being out here, and if you have any other questions or you think of things later, my email address is on that card as well. Shoot me an email, and I'm happy to answer any questions you think of after the fact. So.
In the last 3 days, I've gotten 3 emails from Ms. Greenwood, and I've never seen her.
Greenfield.
Greenfield.
You know what's really funny? I get emails from her.
And
I get emails from Eddie Morrow, and
me
guess
for
what?
money.
I never signed up for their email list, so guess what that means?
They bought the-
They got a brand list.
They bought my email from somebody, which I just, to me, is just illustrative of every reason I'm doing this. Is that they spent a lot of money to buy that email list too, I guarantee you
Well,
that.
they don't cost thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
Sounds to me like maybe the Iowa Democratic Party might have that.
Yeah, it's called a band list and it costs thousands of dollars.
It costs, I can tell you how much it costs. That voter list that the Iowa Democratic Party has, and I could buy from them too, sure. It's $60,000, 60, comma, 000.
Wow.
I don't have 60, comma, 000. So that's where they got that, information, and I don't have that kind of money right now, so,
A lot.
yeah, it is a lot. So thank you all for coming, I really appreciate it. Have a good night, drive safe home.